It's that time again. Let's see what's in the vintage toy box. And in today's video, I thought I would ask my hubby here to discuss and show you some of his other passions, which are steam trains.
Yeah.
He's got a whole World War II train set over there in the kitchen at the moment. And we will be showing you that as soon as we've got it moved into its proper position and it's actually finished. It's not finished yet, but it's coming along really nicely. That'll be for another video. So today, I thought I'd ask Stephen to show us two of his lovely vintage trains. I know nothing about vintage trains or trains in general, so he's going to be doing most of the talking today. Also, I just want to quick point out, excuse the beard. He is trying to grow a beard, but he's not been that well, so he's not been able to go and get it trimmed or shaped properly, but that's going to come. Probably the next video you see me, he'll be all nicely trimmed.
Might look like I've been stuck on an island for 50 years, but anyway.
Well, kind of, but we love you. Okay
Right.
then, let's get on and look at these trains.
Choo-choo. As we can see, this is what we've had inside the vintage toy box today. There are in fact two. There's this one here, which is the Flying Scotsman, and the other one that I have is this one, which is the Mallard, which you can see there. And these are both vintage trains, or vintage toy trains should I say, by Hornby. They were both models that I had as a child, and these particular ones were from the 1980s. I've actually recently bought them, and I'd say they're both around 1988 maybe. And as I said, they were both they're both from Hornby. So firstly, let's talk about the Flying Scotsman, which is this one. As you can see, it is a steam train. Now, in real life, the Flying Scotsman was actually made in 1923 for the London North Eastern Railway, and it used to reach a speed of 100 miles an hour, which luckily on the train set itself does not do that, otherwise it might be a bit of a problem.
Be a bit dangerous.
And you can in fact still see it. In fact, you can still take a ride on the train, well, not literally on the train, but on the carriages that the train pulls, and it tours the country over different lines. Earlier this year in March, it was in Swanage, and actually at the moment in May, it's going to be doing the London to Edinburgh run, which would be a lovely train ride. I'd love to do that, but maybe one day. So let's actually talk about the toy itself. Now, this particular scale is called HO or 00, depending on where you come from. I mean, I normally say HO, but that's possibly because of age. But anyway, basically, in scale, if you want to move it over to models, it's maybe 172, 176 scale. But so it works very well with my model aeroplanes, which I may have mentioned before that I make model aeroplanes, and I set my whole train set round World War II, so which we'll see one day when we have a look at my train set. Anyway, so the toy itself, as you can see, the track here is metal, and you have a small amount of electricity that goes through the metal that makes the trains actually run. It's not enough electricity to, you know, electrocute you or anything, but it's obviously enough for the train to run. Now, in these vintage Hornby train sets, the motor is not actually in the engine itself. It's in this bit here, which is the coal bunker, which in real life would house the coal, and you can see in here the detail of the coal on the bunker. There's also some detail in there of ladders and things like that, but it's not particularly well coloured in these older versions.
We'll bring it up close so we can see.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
As you can see, it's there. You can actually paint it yourself if you want to, but I'm not going to do that with this, otherwise it obviously disturbs the originality. Here you can see inside the cab, right, that's what that bit is called. And there's also a tiny bit of detail in there, but the real detail is on the side, And I like steam trains because I love the working of the gears in the wheel. I just think that, and the wheels and that, I just think that looks really cool. And now this obviously in real life will be quite a big engine, and to go 100 miles an hour in 1923 was pretty fast. So yeah. Now, as I say, in the toy, the engine is actually in here, or the motor is in here, and the electricity actually picks up in the engine part and then goes through into the motor, and that's why you've got this metal connector here, which connects to the engine. And you have to connect it into a little hole there, and then it goes on like that. Now, the one thing I will say, in some of the later Hornby trains, they decided to put the motor in the front, in the engine bit. So it was a puller rather than a pusher. And I find that worked slightly better than these older versions that had it pushing. But you know,
kind of makes sense to me too, if you don't mind my saying. The engine should actually be in the
yeah, because if you go too fast or you have a lot of bumps, because you're pushing it, these little wheels that are loose here, which are called bogies, by the way, but they're not your nose bogies. Although this particular bogie is in the nose, but if you go too fast, they tended to bump off, so you have to be careful with the speed. So yeah, that's the Flying Scotsman, a very famous engine that is still going strong today. The paintwork it's currently got on is the paintwork for the, as I said, the London North Eastern Railway, which is why it says LNER. So yeah, that's one of my favourites and one of the best well-known trains. So we're going to choo-choo that over to the back here, and we're going to go and now have a look at the Mallard, which in the box that I got this particular train, it came with a set. It was called the Mighty Mallard, but I suppose that was just to sell the... Oh, I'm not getting it on.
It's definitely not behaving today on the tracks.
No, it's not. That's better. Again, it's got a very similar wheel setup as the Flying Scotsman. Basically, you could consider it a very similar sort of train. It's just streamlined, as you can see. It's a lot more streamlined. This one, I think, was a slightly... This one might have been about 1989, or I might be a bit wrong there, but I know it was slightly newer than this one, because if we have a look here in the cab, you've got a little bit more detailing.
Oh yes.
Okay, so as I say, both these trains are, you know, any time from a 1985, I would say, but there was a little bit more detailing in the Mallard. Again, the coal bunker is very much the same. It has the detailing there, but it's the same as the Flying Scotsman. And again, it was a pusher. You know, and this one was the second train that I ever got. I might actually show you the first one I got one day as well. But this was actually the second train I got as a kid. I remember it. Well, when I say a kid, I was probably about 10 or maybe 11. I can't remember, but I was about sort of like 10 or 11. And so it's definitely one of my favourites. Now, in real life, the Mallard is a bit older, or should I say a bit newer than the Flying Scotsman. The Mallard was in fact made in 1938, so just before World War II. And it held, or should I say, it held a world speed record race in 1938 as well, and that managed to get it up to 126 miles an hour, and it got the world speed record, and that record has never been broken. A world speed steam train record, of course, obviously by electric trains and that, the record has been broken, but for a steam train, no other steam train has broken that record, so it's quite famous for that. And it when it originally came out, in 1938. It was in a blue, I wouldn't say light blue, but it was slightly lighter than a navy blue, but it was a blue livery, which is what you call the trains that are painted. Then a little bit after that, in the war, it went into a black livery. And then after the war, in around, I would say possibly 1953, I think, as they correct, I know it was the 50s, it went into the green that you see here. And today, this still exists, though to my knowledge, it's not running on the railway, though I think it probably could if it wanted to. But you'll find this actually in the National Railway Museum in this country. And you can actually go on it and have a look at it and quite closely. It looks a very interesting museum if this is the sort of thing that you're interested in.
Actually, there's a thought. Perhaps one day you and I could go to the Railway Museum, and if anybody out there is interested in trains and would like us to see, like to see us vlog our visit to the museum, leave a comment down below and we'll see what we can do.
I mean, and also if I ever get to go on a ride on the Flying Scotsman, I would like to vlog that as well.
Oh, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, so both these trains, as I say, are vintage insofar as they come from the 80s. They're in very, very good condition. I bought them as basically hardly used. I've looked at the wheels. I don't know if you can see here. Right, there's a little piece of rubber there. That piece of rubber on that wheel is to help with traction, to help it stick to the track. And when I look at that piece of rubber, it's hardly used. There's no wear or tear on it. So that tells me that this is probably, a very good and well looked after train. So
it's probably just kept in a case and not actually put on a track.
And then when this was made, and you can still see on the underside of it, though I don't think you'll be able to from here, but you can see it says made in Great Britain. So you can tell that it's pretty vintage if it's still made in Great Britain, because most things aren't these days. And the same goes for the Flying Scotsman as well. You can see they've got the same sort of wear and tear, or lack of wear and tear. So I'm quite happy with these. They do work, and what we will do one day when my train set is up and running again is I will actually show you how they actually work.
Maybe we can do a whole video on your train set and you can show all your other trains and stuff.
So that's basically what we're showing you today. My two vintage steam trains, or should I say Hornby steam trains, because let's not forget that that's who made them. Hornby being the traditional provider of train sets to children and big children such as me. I have kept up with my hobby over the years, it's basically also brings back a lot of nostalgia and memories for me, particularly, as I say, the Mallard here, because it was my first one, and not that long after I got the Flying Scotsman as well, and I now have them again.
Kind of like me with the toys I collect.
Yeah, so there you have it. And I'm just trying to think if there's any other things I could say about them. Yeah, they're just my favourite, so I hope you've enjoyed this anyway. So back to Rose.
And that's our video. We hope you enjoyed looking at these beautiful trains. I know I did. And as we said, we will do a full video of Steven's train set if you guys would like to see it. Leave a comment below and let us know if you'd like to see that video and if you'd like to see the vlog video. I just want to thank my lovely hubby for doing this.
That's a pleasure, of course, as usual.
And I'm sure you'll see him again in a lot more videos, hopefully without the big scruffy beard.
Yeah.
So until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.